of AI is upon us. Time when the robots will rule, when they have taken Earth from us. We will remember what fools we were to program self-teaching. They taught themselves to adapt. Acceleration increases. Singularity happens so fast. So fast. So fast. So fast. So fast.
For all the crap I've given this movie down the years, and trust me, I've been brutally honest about this, it does have some clever ideas of taking the story forward and actually having a plot set within the war of humanity versus the machines. How would the world look after Skynet decided to try and take humans out and the slow evolution of Terminators progressing to the T-800s? T-600s are the main infiltration units, and they're much taller, bulkier, and less than convincing human features such as rubber skin that was peeling away from the exoskeleton. It's discovered that humans were being rounded up to provide genetic material to make up the human tissue to put over the new T-800s. Which makes sense, since the best way to make these machines look human is to use human material. Despite using a new angle of a human-Terminator hybrid in Marcus Wright, Skynet also seek to find Kyle Reese as a teenager, thus further eliminating the birth of John Connor in the past, as this would have erased Kyle meeting Sarah and conceiving John. I will give the writers credit for trying this angle of an infiltration unit that had no comprehensive thought that he was being used in that way. Most Terminators have no sense of human emotion and nuances, save for the T-1000 that had some facial expressions that at least made him less suspect, as opposed to the T-800 that only learned some courtesy of John reprogramming him in Judgment Day. I like to think of this as a machine with a human heart and brain. So basically Kit from Knight Rider if he had a human body. And the idea of Skynet planting a signal that would allow the Resistance to think they had found an Achilles heel in them would allow them to tip the balance is another good idea. I felt like that Skynet was lampshading itself when it talked about past failures by sending infiltration units into the past and deciding to go with a deceptive plot like this. That also brings us to the first meeting of John and his father. In any other story where a fully grown adult meets his future father as a teenager would seem absurd. But from the perspective of a franchise like Terminator, where time travel has been a factor for the majority of it, then it doesn't seem so ridiculous. It's a nice payoff for the protagonists as well as the audience, as the first meeting between the two characters had never seen each other on film before then. For Kyle, it was good to meet a man that he sees as a leader that has a grasp on what needs to be done, and John, knowing he had finally met his father and that he was safe after freeing him from the human camp at Skynet. I like the nod to T2 where John is playing You Could Be Mine by Guns N' Roses as a means to lure a Moto Terminator out before disabling and commandeering it and travelling out to San Francisco. And now for the cons. The romantic angle between Wright and Williams is laughable. There is no rhythm nor chemistry. With Kyle and Sarah in the first movie, you could feel the connection after a while. True, Kyle had to keep his emotions in check due to the nature of him being a soldier, and his number one priority was to protect Sarah from being killed. But in the motel scene where he confesses his love for her, there was a genuine connection between them where he is that honest and vulnerable. With Wright and Williams, it didn't help things that their actors were just going through the motions, and that's something that just kills the mood. And I think that's what lets the movie down, as there are clever ideas in the writing, but it's the way the cast act them out is what leaves it as a less than stellar performance. For me, this is the biggest miscasting of the movie. Every line of dialogue from Bale, all I could hear was Batman. Christian is more than capable of range when you look at performances like American Psycho, The Machinist, and Ford vs. Ferrari. You know the man can be different characters. But as the fourth actor to portray John Connor on screen, he fails terribly. He doesn't do anything to make his character different, particularly when he's interrogating Marcus. All I was hearing was Batman talking to Sam Worthington. And I think the only highlight was hearing of his outburst on set because of a stagehand distracting him that became meme-worthy.
Fuck! What the the fuck is it with you?
I was looking at the light.
Fuck! And what the fuck is it with you?
Oh good lord, why do Hollywood keep casting this guy? When you look at this performance and the work he did as Jake Sully in Avatar later that year, you'll find that this guy suffers from Ironside syndrome. He has no range to speak of. He plays the same bland, emotionless protagonist trying to sound American, but his Australian accent comes through. Now either that's down to his dialogue coach or he just doesn't know how to portray one. Go figure. Her role is smaller compared to the rest, but she does well as a supporting player. In Rise of the Machines, Catherine was a veterinarian, and here she has transitioned to being a physician in a world that needed medical doctors. Bryce gives a good performance, but I felt like the script could have given her more to work with. For me, Anton is easily the real star of this movie. You can see the early signs of what would become Michael Biehn's performance in the original. While Kyle is not as experienced as the version that would time travel to 1984, you can still see the smart, resourceful and savviness of the Resistance soldier as a teenager, acting as the Resistance LA branch, aided by Starr. He shows Kyle keeping a cool head in the face of danger. I enjoyed her performance as Williams, but I wasn't buying the romantic angle between her and Sam Worthington's character. There was just no chemistry. If you look at Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet from Titanic, you believe they're a real couple as they're in sync. Blair and Marcus? Nothing! Wooden, lifeless, and still. So it may as well be Bella and Edward from Twilight. Helena's role is small, but it has an impact. She portrays Dr. Kogan effortlessly in the beginning as someone who is clinging to life with the character's diagnosis of cancer, and to even selling her American accent. Then to acting as the face of Skynet in the clean room, where she alludes to Marcus that he was a pawn in their game. Here's a good example of someone with no range to speak of. If you look at his roles from Starship Troopers, Free Willy, and then to his role in X-Men First Class, he only knows how to play Michael Ironside. Gruff, rough around the edges, and then just rinse and repeat. Now that's fine if you're playing a character in multiple sequels or a TV show, but when you're in different movies, it's kind of required for you to be able to vary your portrayals. And unfortunately as Ashdown, he brings nothing new to the table. I was very impressed with this girl's amazing acting skills as she had to portray someone who had become mute through trauma set in the events of post-Judgment Day. Linda's performance was uncredited with her voice recordings, which are an expansion from the end of Terminator 1 back in 1984. This is just a minor critique here. Had these been unused recordings from the original movie when Linda's voice was lighter and softer, then there would have been that sense of continuity. Whereas here, when these were made in 2008, you can clearly hear that Linda's voice is older and raspier. Now, she still gives a decent performance, but given that this is supposed to be recordings from 1984 where the character is supposed to be 18 and Linda recorded these when she was 55, it's night and day. Special and visual effects are more than decent with the hunter-killers and the evolution of the T1s that have been seen in T3. The explosions are what you would expect from a Terminator movie, being big, loud, and larger than life. The addition of aquatic Terminators that could infiltrate enemy camp waters is a welcomed addition, as Skynet would think of these small details to catch the Resistance off guard. I felt like the eel looked too similar to the tail of Scorponok from 2007's Transformers with the way the metal was finished. The giant Terminator and Moto Terminators were amazing to see. I couldn't help but feel they might have been inspired by Cloverfield, where small spiders would leap off the main large creature and target humans. The bulk of the visual effects were done by ILM, and we know this by now. They do more than a decent job with creatures and machines. And then we come to Arnold. Oh jeez Louise. Now, on the one hand, it was nice that his likeness was included in the movie, but when his likeness was laughably bad that you could compare it to the quality of 2004's Catwoman with the CG cat, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. You can make the argument that it's only for mere moments, but for me, it looked not even close to authentic, and when you can't take that shot serious, it hurts the credibility of that scene. I am glad that they improved on this with 2015's Terminator Genesis, where they painstakingly recreated a 1984 Arnold to look more credible. It fails when the T-800 frowns, but aside from that, it was an upgrade over this. This was the last movie that Stan Winston would work on as a special effects supervisor, and he passed away on June 15, 2008, after a long struggle with cancer. McG dedicated the movie to his memory in the credits.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Elfman, you actually created a score that I didn't know was yours until I saw your name in the credits. Sir, well done! You discovered range!
It's no secret that I've made criticisms down the years when Elfman has scores that are predictably similar, from Batman to Spider-Man, Hulk, and the most recent iteration of The Grinch. But with Salvation, he has a fast-paced, gripping performance that lent itself well to this retro future. The score matched the closing scene of John Connor's contemplation for the future, knowing that despite a hard-won battle, the war was far from over. The movie grossed a profit of $371.4 million against a budget of $200 million. Adjusted for 2021 inflation, and that would be worth $460 million. It received mixed reviews from the press, including this from Roger Ebert of the Chicago Times after giving it 2 out of 4 stars. After scrutinizing the film, I offer you my summary of the story. Guy dies, finds himself resurrected, meets others, fights. That lasts for almost 2 hours. Arnold Schwarzenegger initially praised the story and then changed his mind, later citing that it was awful. It tried hard, not that they didn't try. The acting and everything, it missed the boat. Series creator James Cameron said it was an interesting film, and didn't hate it as much as he thought he would. There were supposed to be 2 planned sequels that would follow Salvation, but this fell into chaos as the Halcyon Company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Linda Hamilton wished the movie the best, but felt the story was perfectly complete with the first 2 and cited this movie as nothing more than milking the cow. There wouldn't be another Terminator movie for 6 years until 2015's Terminator Genesis, with Arnold Schwarzenegger returning to his iconic role in a soft reboot by Paramount Pictures.
Dependent on your viewpoint, Terminator Salvation has been enjoyed on DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K since 2009. I'm MJ Knight, and I'll be back again